In this video, we're going to build a quick to-do app, and you're going to learn how to build this to-do app step by step, even if you've never used Bubble before. I'm going to break it down so you're going to be able to follow along and build the app with me. So here we are in a new Bubble editor, so it's a completely blank page, no template or anything like that. And the first thing that we're going to do is go to the left side here to our design tab, and the design tab is where we're going to actually add elements onto our page. Later on we'll go into the workflow and data tab to add a database and add logic to our app to actually save our to-dos and mark them as complete and different things like that. And what I'm going to do is search for an input form here. So I'm going to take an input form, drag it in, and then by default we're using the fixed layout from Bubble. So I'm going to go ahead, and if you click on page index here on the top left, which is essentially the way to have the settings for the entire page. Here under layout, we can see the layout of our page is fixed. Now what this means is that you can drag and drop and put items on your page anywhere you want, but it will not be responsive. So if you have a screen size that gets smaller to mobile, for example, your app won't really be able to be used on that smaller screen size. Now, if I were building an app that was beyond just this tutorial to learn how to use the basic functions of Bubble, I would use the responsive layout. So I would use either I would likely use a column layout here. And there's a lot more to learn about setting up a responsive layout, which I'm not going to get into in this video, because I just want to show you how to set up the basic functionality, and I don't want to get too distracted with other things in Bubble, such as the design, which is can be complicated and be another video to learn from. So in this video, we're just going to focus on the functionality, so we're going to use the fixed layout. If you're watching this video in the future and for some reason you're not able to just drag and drop the way I am, check the page index and make sure the container layout is fixed. Okay, so we have our input here, and this is what we're going to use to add to-dos to our to-do list, essentially. So here we have our input, and then I'm going to add a button. So I'm just going to click button on the left side, drag that in right below, and I'm going to say add to my to-do list. So I'm just going to change the text here. This is the text on the button, and we are currently editing this Bubble element here. So now we have our button and we have our input. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is set up our database so we can actually save our to-do list items. So we're going to go to the data tab here on the left side. We're going to go down here below the data types, and under new type, I'm going to go ahead and type in task. So what this is essentially creating a table in our database. If you're familiar with databases, where basically each of these data types is a table in our database. And then there are fields inside of our tables. So by default, Bubble is going to create a few fields for us. It's going to create the created date, modified date, the creator, which is the user who created that item or row in our database, the slug as well, kind of a unique ID, which also could be used for a URL if you had like a page that was specific to the task, for example. And then by default, Bubble is also going to create a user table. And you don't have to have users or logins in your app, but by default, Bubble is still going to create users here. Okay, cool. So under our task data type, we're going to create a new field. And the field name is going to be name, which is just going to be the name of the task. And I'm going to have it be a text field type. This is the data type, so you can see there's different types of data types. It could be a date, for example, a number. In this case, it's just going to be a text data type. And then I'm going to create a new field as well, which is going to be done. I'm going to call it done. And the field type is going to be yes, no. So this means there's two options. It's either yes or no or blank. There's only those options here for our done. And that's called a Boolean is another word for that. It's essentially just yes or no. And Bubble turns that into yes or no here instead of calling it a Boolean. Okay, so we have our name and the name of the task. It's going to say whether it is done or not. And I want to create one more field, which is due date. The field type is going to be a date here. And we are going to create that field as well. So here we go. We have the name, the due date, and whether it is done. So just as a very simple database for a to-do app. So I'm going to go back to our designer. And what I'm going to do is search for a repeating group here on the left side of the editor. And I'm going to drag it in and drag it all the way down here. So a repeating group is an element that's going to allow us to dynamically show data from our database here on our app page. So I'm going to show you how to set up this repeating group. So first, in the editor here for our repeating group, the type of content is going to be a task. And this is essentially telling Bubble that the data that we're going to pull from our database, so we named it that task data table. If we go back to the designer, that's the database table that we're going to be pulling from. And then for data source, what we're going to do is do a search for. So we're going to search through those tasks. And what we're going to do is just leave it at that. Now, if you had users, for example, you could filter where, the created by equals current user type of thing. There's all sorts of things you could do to filter the data that's coming in. But for this basic app, we're just going to leave it so there's no constraints. One thing I will do is sort by due date, and descending, I will say yes. So descending is going to mean I believe it's going to put the newest ones first. Actually, I think we need to do descending is no. So the newest will be first, or the ones that are due first are going to show up first. And we'll see when we actually have the app set up how that's going to actually work. Under fixed number of rows, I'm going to uncheck that. So that way we have an unlimited number of rows. If you have more than 4 to-dos, it's going to show all of them. For now, we can keep the min height of 100. I'm not going to focus again on this styling here in this tutorial. Please go to our No-Code MBA Bubble course to learn a lot more about how to style here in Bubble, or check out some of our other videos here on YouTube to learn more about how to style in Bubble. And I'm going to now go ahead and search for a group here. Actually, I'm not going to search for a group. I'm just going to add a text field and drag that in. And now you can see wherever I put that text field in that first repeating group task element, it's showing up in all of them. And this is because it's going to dynamically display the data in each of these rows based on the data that's in our database. And then here, if we go over to where it says Edit Me, we can click Insert Dynamic Data while it's highlighted to remove the Edit Me. And we're going to say Current Cells Tasks Name. So it's going to show our task name here. And I can just drag it out a little bit more in case it's a longer name. And again, I wouldn't usually design this way. I would use responsive design, and that's something that in the No-Code MBA Bubble course we show how to do. But in this tutorial, I just want to do a quick video to show you the functionality. And next, what I'm going to do is add in another text field, and I'm going to put it next to it, or maybe next to it is fine for now. And it's going to say current cells tasks due date, and then we can say formatted as this, and then we can just put the format. We'll just do it as this format, but you can change it if you want to any format that you want the date to show up as. Maybe I'll do this format, January 4th, 2024. Okay, cool. Now what I'm going to do is add a button. I'm just going to drag that in here to the right side, maybe make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to have it say done. So now we have the name, the date, and whether the task is done. So what I'm going to do is add a workflow. I'm going to add an action, and what I'm going to do is say make changes to current thing. The thing to change is the current cell's task, so that's that current cell that we're in. And what we're going to do is change done to yes. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the designer. We're going to go to that repeating group task, repeating group where we're searching for those tasks under the data source. Let's click on that. We're going to go ahead and add a new constraint where due date, or sorry, not due date. We're going to say where done equals no. So we don't want to show any tasks here that are already done. Okay. And then the last thing that we need to do is click add to my to-do list, add workflow. We're going to create a new thing. The type is a task. The name is going to be the input A value. And the reason it's input A is that is the default name here for that input. Now, if you change that to, input field, for example, to do, input field to do, when you go back to the workflow, that's what that field is going to be called, input field to do. So whatever you name that is what and that is what it will show up here as, and then it's the value of that name. We need to do one more thing, which is add in the ability for users to add a due date. So we're going to go ahead and search for date and get date time picker and drag that in here. I'm going to put it over here on the right side. Here. And then what I will do is when I click add to my to-do list, edit workflow, we're also going to set a field which is due date, and the due date is going to be the input, or I think it was the date time picker A. So date / time picker element A's value. We'll also set the done to no by default. Okay. I'm going to do one more quick little thing, which is click on this input field to do. We're going to say this input should not be empty. So by doing that, if this input is empty when we click add to my to-do list, it will not work and it'll highlight in red. We're going to do the same for that date time picker and say this input should not be empty. Okay, cool. So if you've completed everything here in the tutorial, you should have a working basic to-do app. So let's go ahead and click preview to preview our app. And let's go ahead and say go for it, run. Click add to my to-do list. Oh, and you can see here already I did not add the date, and as a result we have this red drop down happen. So let's say I want to do it on January 6th. So I can add to my to-do list, go for a run, January 6th, and let's do one more, which is going to be cook dinner, and I'll do that today and add to my to-do list. Okay, and you can see because we said descending is a no on the sorting, cook dinner is showing up first. I want to do one more little edit here. Under the workflow, for when we create a new task, I want to click to add a new action. It's going to be recommended, but you can search as well for reset relevant inputs. And what that's going to do is reset these fields after you submit. So that way it's not stuck with the same input that you had after you submit. So let's preview and try one more. So let's say we want to, go to the gym, and we want to do that on Tuesday, January 9th, and add to my to-do list. So here we go. And then let's say we did go for a run, and then it's off the to-do list. Okay, cool. So at this point, you've successfully built a real app using Bubble without writing any code. This is a really simple app, but there's a lot of things that you could do to add on to this. So For example, you could add another repeating group with the completed item so you could see what's completed and what's not completed. There's basically anything that you can think of that any to-do app software has in terms of functionality, you can build it in Bubble. If you want to learn more about building in Bubble and how to build all of these advanced features, be sure to click the link in the description. Go to No Code MBA's Complete Guide to Bubble course, where you'll learn how to build in Bubble through real-world projects. So everything on No Code MBA is through real-world projects. So we have courses on how to build an app like Reddit using Bubble, how to build an app like Airbnb using Bubble. We also have a course called Building Apps with AI, where you'll learn how to use Bubble with a variety of different AI APIs, such as OpenAI and Stable Diffusion, and build AI apps, such as text generation apps like ChatGPT, apps that are image generation apps, and lots of other AI integrations into Bubble and No Code. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you have any questions at all, please just leave a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.